What up, peeps? So you probably already know that I recently turned a new age. So what are we gonna do to celebrate, huh? What are we gonna do? Well, just put that on hold for now, because there was this YouTuber I used to watch called, The Church of You. Literally, it's the actual word. You can search him up, no spaces. He's a blogger just like I am, and he's been doing it longer than I have, so he probably knows his crap. You know what, the proper term would be vlog, because it's a video. A blog is just an article that you post online. When people just record their face talking about stuff, it's called a vlog, but I like the acronym BBM better. And no, it does not stand for Big Bowel Movement. Get off my ass. Anyway, this guy's not really someone I watch anymore, because far too many of his blogs feel the same. He mostly just talks about his hatred for the Bible or Donald Trump. Not to be rude, but he's so uncreative. I'm sorry, it's the truth. It's the truth. But there have been rare occurrences when he actually has gotten creative, like the time he blogged about sucky cheese. Oh, sorry, I mean Chucky Cheese. What the helling breasts? How have these cheap ass jacks been in business for 46 years? Like, I don't think I've been to Chuck E. Cheese in like half my life, which was like, what, 11.5 years ago? And even back then it sucked. Well, we'll get to that later. The point is, he has a pretty filthy mouth, like even worse than mine. I mean, come on, the F word is literally in his channel name. You can't get any more dirty than that. So if you want a guy whose mouth will be filthy in every single sentence he says until the day that Milky Way and Andromeda collide, this is your guy. But his Chuck E. Cheese one was actually kind of funny sometimes, and if you're interested at all, I will put a link in the description. Here's just one clip of it.
And you done blew $50 just so your child can walk out with a plastic spider that breaks as soon as you get in the car.
So it looks like this guy's already covered the topic of Chuck E. Cheese. So what's the point of me doing something that somebody else has already done? Well, he never actually brought up, this thing. Yeah, that clock bastard has become a huge trend lately. People that are way too big for it usually just come to Chuck E. Cheese only to get people's reactions, either on TikTok or in person. Like, here's one example of a young teenager, I don't know, 13, 14, giving it a shot. As scrawny ass as this kid is, even he is too heavy for it. Once the clock reaches 11, it starts to go the other direction for a split second, but then the kid's weight breaks it and causes it to jolt back down to 9. And keep in mind, this kid has to be like no more than half my weight. If I got on there today, which would be a task in itself because the width of the seat is probably just one of my ass cheeks. But anyway, if I got on there now, the instant it started to move, the whole damn clock would fall off its stand. Literally, like no damn crap. I would bet on that. This thing is for nucleus-sized babies and nothing more. It would be easier for me to just manhandle the seat off of it with just my arms than it would be for it to lift me. It's such a pathetic invention. And you know, I couldn't really find any actual information about this clock guy anywhere. Hell, the only piece of actual art I found was this crap right here, and everything else is just a real picture. I mean, it's not like there's a Chuck E. Cheese cinematic universe with kick-ass artwork of all the characters. And why would that be? Because nobody gives a bitch! So it appears this clock ride does not want to be blogged about. But too bad, because I'll find a way. I guess we'll just start this out by saying that clocks with faces is nothing new. I mean, there's one from Beauty and the Beast, and what the actual damn? Get out of my blog! I don't know when sentient clocks started becoming popular, but it's unnerving. Not quite as bad as the dreams I've had in the past of there being a giant analog clock in the sky, usually in the nighttime, that people use to just keep track of time, but it's still not good. Clock in the sky keeps on turning! So quite clearly, this clock is supposed to be a character of sorts. And I'm totally the biggest dork in all the land for doing this, but I actually did research on Chuck E. Cheese lore to figure out why this clock is so just obscure. I didn't stick around for long, trust me on that, because I knew it would be torture to my ass. But it had to be done a little bit for the sake of this blog. So throw all the cringeness aside if you're even able to do that and just try to hear me out. I learned that there are about, I don't know, 14 characters in the Chuck E. Cheese world. And it's not like many of these characters took actual time to think about. I mean, frick, Building is a character. That's right, Building is an actual character. That's bitch. More laziness to be found, too. There's also, Bird, Moon, Pizza Cam. Come on, you bastards, you're not even trying to give a crap. Alright, that aside, I think I have a theory as to why the clock dude was not counted as one of the characters. It's a longer story, so you might want to sit your ass down and listen up. My story begins with the main characters being teenage gangsta thugs who love drugs and drinking and all that damn crap. This was the hippie age of the 70s, so quite frankly, it was pretty sketchy. There's about 5 main characters. Obviously there's Chuck E. Cheese, Helen Hinney, Jasper T. Jowls, Pasquale P. Pieplate, who at this point in the 70s was probably past his teenage years, like, I don't know, 24, but he was still a gangsta thug. And finally Mr. Munch, not to be confused with Munch Jr., who was his son, who was not born at the time. So what I believe what happened here is that these 4 teenage thugs plus the 24-year-old man decided that one night they would break into an office building and just jack around with a bunch of dangerous chemistry chemicals, right? You're probably thinking, Kale, quit making up crap, but no. This is the only way I could think of this ever happening, guys. The only way. My story's not over yet, so shut up. Now, these guys made a huge mistake and mixed the worst possible outcomes of elements that they possibly could have. And not only did it cause a big-ass explosion, but the fumes from the explosion were so, like, weird that after they spread all throughout the building in, like, I don't know, 12 minutes, the building came to life and started talking. I'm assuming this is how the building character came to be. And it was probably saying something like, "Hey, I feel guys inside of me and I'm never going to let them leave ever!" After hearing this, the 5 thugs started to panic and they all agreed they need to get the hell out of there. They're just all like running to try to find a way out of the place, and along the way Jasper the dog loses track of the others and he stumbles across a time machine that has a clock on it. This clock is the same one I've been talking about this whole episode. The one with the eyes and the mouth and all that bitch. The clock specifically states to Jasper that it can take him and his friends back to earlier that day so they can avoid the catastrophe that they had started. Jasper shouts to the others of the news about the time machine, but he was a bit too loud to where the building could hear him, and the building was like, "If anyone touches that damn time machine, I'm gonna jump up and down and break everyone's bones." This leaves Jasper with no choice but to abandon the time machine and try to find his friends, who so far have had no luck trying to find an escape route. Not long after that, Building makes the random announcement that he wants to start a pizzeria that'll satisfy children for decades to come, and that it'll be named after one of the teenage trespassers. Building tells to the thugs that they have to make another explosion similar to the one they did the last time, only this time they gotta sniff in the fumes, and that way it'll make them all friendly and cute and cringe bitchy for the kids. Chuck E. Cheese, you know, the main character, replies with "Hell nah!" And then the building threatens to break their bones. This leaves all of them with no choice, so they create another explosion and consume all the fumes. And that just turned them into mindless slaves, which they have been since 1977. Now, as for the time machine, I believe they destroyed or mutilated it, whichever you prefer, and put copies of its face inside numerous Chuck E. Cheese locations all over the world, just to mock the 5 that trespassed that night into the building. And I believe that's the story. That's the only explanation I could come up with. Let's see you do better. Oh, what's that? You don't give an ass? Well, then my point has been proven then. And Chuck E. Cheese is still a thing to this day. So the parents that take their kids to Chuck E. Cheese and just let them be wild ass, and just let the children laugh in vain at the 5 mindless teenage slaves, those parents are probably the ones that hate the typical teenage culture, which I don't blame you, I hate them too. In fact, I always have, even before I was a freaking 13-year-old. But I think there's better ways of punishing those stupid ass thugs than to go to Chuck E. Cheese. Everyone needs forgiveness in their life, so honestly, people just need to stop supporting this pizzeria corporation and let the teenagers be themselves again. These guys have not thought about anything since 1977, so it might be time just to, move past that. But, the parents that are as dumb as their children will still be taking their children to Chuck E. Cheese. I would bet that for many more years to come. It's unfortunate, I know. Just go somewhere else! Anyway, that was this episode, and I'll see you later. Woo! Shit! Ow!